Um, what is the main difference between animals and humans that justifies it doing to animals but not to humans?
What is the main wrong that justifies it between animals? So what would I? Okay, so you your premise was that, or are you going to claim that the premise that you're going to use is what the debate is on? So like you're taking the stance that it's immoral to consume animals for the purpose of like consumption, basically.
Yeah, and the argument was just I was gonna like run down, name the trait with you, and see
Okay.
what allowed you to morally at least create demand for that kind of consumption. But it would be what the difference between that is for animals and humans.
Right. So I was going to say that if it was for the consumption of food, I wouldn't discriminate between anything unless if it's like the same species. So if it's human, then I wouldn't eat it.
So is like is the argument some form of speciesism?
In a way.
Okay. I guess I would just ask you to define the qualities of a human. Like, how do we distinguish between a human and, say, a monkey or a cow? What like makes a human a human?
Based on the best knowledge that we have, we can attempt to what do you call it? If you can prove that it's like the closest thing to a human, then yeah. So based on
Yeah, but like
genetics,
for
based on
instance,
biology,
banana.
based
Like
on
for
multiple things,
sure.
shape.
So I'm asking like the qualities specifically. Because for instance, I think bananas share like 99 or more percent of our DNA. Right? We could like
Hmm.
point to a bunch of animals. Yeah. So like I don't. I'm just like asking you what the specific qualities of a human are
But a
that
banana doesn't
distinguish
have
them
the
between animals.
it, yeah. So like it's not just one aspect. It's like if you cover as many aspects as possible, that would bring a similar pattern. So like that covers everything in terms of um, because like you can't say that it's just sentience because and my Xbox has sentience. It feels, it has electrical systems. But then you've got intelligence. Bananas don't have intelligence. So then you've also got genetics. You've also got biology. You've also got multiple things. So and you've even got human conscious, for example, that's different to animals. That's different to a banana's conscious, certainly. If you could
Sure.
prove that there is a banana's conscious, so there's all these different things that would accumulate to a human. And if you
Sure. So
and the more boxes that you tick to prove that it is a human or close to, right? Then I wouldn't eat them.
well, just running with this, I just kind of want to run through kind of the things you mentioned because it seemed like you mentioned a bunch of things that are not mutually exclusive to humans,
Yeah.
but not to animals, right? So, for instance, it is true that animals, at least to our awareness, have consciousness. They seem to react to the outside world. They seem to have things they like or dislike, and they
Mhm.
seem to try to accomplish some sort of goals. It seems like they can feel pain. It seems like they're intelligent enough.
Mhm.
For instance, pigs, especially. Pigs are one of the most intelligent farm animals we eat. It's been proven that they at least have the intelligence of, I believe, some kind of I think it's like a 4-year-old, or maybe I'm mistaken, but they're fairly intelligent. So I'm just curious, what is the thing humans have? What are these like check marks that you can like check off that humans would fall under that animals just don't? I guess.
Hmm. Well, I was pretty much just like the easiest way to say that was like there's like the different species and how we categorize them. So if it's a human, then yeah. But okay, maybe we can look into
Sure.
some more specifics because
I mean, if you want to talk about
I thought I already
species,
gave all like many different reasons,
well, if
but
you want to talk about species, I mean, usually we fall. I think we're like Homo sapiens. Um, and often people will say, well, what are the characteristics of a Homo sapien? Oh, well, they have verbal communication.
hmm
They have 2 arms, 2 legs, etc. Right. However, often I find that people who make these descriptions about what Homo sapiens are also seem to consider people who may, for instance, not be bipedal or might not be verbal to still be human despite this, right? So it's more along the lines of, well, I'm trying to get you to
hmm
kind of tell me what makes us a human being, and then I would go on the lines of, well, what about these human beings that we would consider human, but maybe don't fit the definition or this rigid kind of definition we've set up, kind of.
right. So I think the easier way to define it would be that humans have the infinite potential to be a highly intelligent being, right? So even if they were unconscious, for example, and in a coma, you could argue that they have no intelligence. However, if they were proven to be able to wake up again, it would go back to the infinite potential of being a highly intelligent being again. Whereas you could argue that any other animal does not have the same level of intelligence as a human in potential, unless if you're talking about, like abnormalities, like you've got different disabilities, because even with animals and so forth, you have disabilities and whatnot. But
Yeah.
the difference is that your average human, as like as you look at the genetics, as you look at intelligence and all these different types of morality systems, you can safely conclude that your average human is much more intelligent than other species.
Well, that's true. That is the case. However, I guess two questions. And the first question is, you brought up potential and how it's important to note that humans have infinite potential.
Hmm.
How do you define potential? What's that definition to you?
So, for example, if you're in a coma, people would argue that they would have no value because they're dead. But if they had the potential to live, and so you knew like maybe in a month or something they might wake up, there's a high chance, according to, like whatever the doctors may tell you, then that person would have value still because they can continue to live potentially, and they can also, uh, yeah, they have the potential to continue to grow in intelligence. Because we know that animals tend to get capped at a certain level of intelligence. Like they don't have the capacity to build guns, or like I don't know. Guns was just a random example. I don't know why I said that. Let's say like a building, as in like a proper, I don't know, mansion or something like that. Uh, these kind of levels of intelligence is only found within humans.
Do you think that do you think there's potential for a mentally handicapped person to be able to do these kind of functions that you're referring to?
I mean, depending on the mental illness, yeah. Like there's people
Yeah,
that
sure. So like
that's what I
somebody
mean.
say projected. Here, let me clarify. Somebody is projected to need help, kind of doing their daily functions day to day. They're going to need an attendant day to day. That kind of person.
Yeah, that's fine with them because, see, like I said, on average, that like for sure, like you could argue that everyone has mental illness for sure, but I mean the amount or the extent that such an illness would impact or prevent these people. What I mean is they're not the majority of humans. The majority of humans aren't impacted to such a degree where they need an attendant. So
Yeah, but
it,
that's kind of my question, isn't it? If your
yeah.
argument is kind of hinged on an argument from the majority of humans and what they have,
Hmm.
then obviously that leads us to the question of, well, how do you apply values to people who maybe fall outside of this majority? And if the answer is that you apply the same value to the average human as you apply to the people outside of the majority, then why is it that you don't disvalue these outside of majority people, but you disvalue animals? I suppose.
Because the same logic would also apply to animals in that if like you still find inconsistencies with animals. So like how would you differentiate animals from other animals, or even um like the amount of intelligence that an animal has, no matter how high it is, will still be lesser than like
Well, that's
humans.
not true. I think the average pig or chimpanzee or the average cow even has enough emotional intelligence and at least intelligence in an intuitive sense to survive independently, much more so than an infant or a toddler or somebody extremely mentally handicapped. And I think that we give value to these things that are less capable of surviving and making decisions and relating with others of their species. We give more value to these like humans without that kind of ability than we do to these animals who do. So I'm just wondering why that's the case.
So they have shorter lifespans. So some animals are born like that, like they've much more developed upon birth. But with humans, as again as I stated, the potential for them to do greater good, like the amount of lives they can save, the amount of things that they can help, and the amount of like machines they can build in order to help the world even, they have a greater potential than what's a cow going to do for the world.
Are you still speaking generally? Because I feel like this would not apply, just not apply to.
So
or
are you
disabled.
specifically going back to disabled people? So we can address the disabled
Yeah,
topic.
I'm just
So if we're talking about disabled people and their capacity to have intelligence in comparison to animals, then again they would be considered an outlier, but they're not considered
yeah,
to be
but
inhumane. They're still
but
human.
why do you extend value to this outlier
Because
even though they
because
don't
what
fit
I'm
the
saying is
description of what you're
they
applying value to?
they still have the potential to recover or even improve or even develop and gain intelligence. There's plenty of rehab
Even if their
schools.
issue is
Hmm.
even if their issue is rooted in actual biological differences. So, for instance,
Hmm.
I'm not like a neurologist, but
Hmm.
there can be people, for instance, who are just like have Down syndrome or an extreme variant of something like that, in which
Okay.
it's not exactly a result of social conditioning that can just be therapied away. It
But
can be
Down
improved
syndrome,
upon, but not to the extent.
people with Down
Yeah,
syndrome still have the capacity to do multiple functions. I worked with them for several years. You're still able
yeah.
to help them to create, I don't know, small like gifts and packages and all this kind of stuff. They
Haven't we
still
done that with animals historically, though? Haven't we used animals to
is
help and work
is
with not
that
just the
voluntary
humans?
though? See, these Down syndrome kids, they actually willingly want to help, and they love it, and they yeah, they enjoy what they do. Whereas with animals,
So do you?
we don't have a level of communication where we can like voluntarily ask them to participate in such an event. If anything, you'd be forcing them to do that.
But do you like not think there are any people in the world who are so mentally handicapped
Hmm.
that they don't have this potential? Do you like reject that as a concept?
Well, no, I don't reject that because this is my thinking, right? It's possible that we could cure all mental illness. We just don't know how.
Well, it's
And
possible as
that's
well.
why
I
I'm
mean,
saying if we could,
if you
like,
want to appeal to possibility,
if we
this
were
goes
able
both
to,
ways.
sorry, if I was gonna say if we were able to, um, well, no, because there are like different therapies and things that have been proven to, uh, like help those that have particular illnesses rehabilitate and go back
Yeah,
to,
particular illnesses, I agree, but
yeah,
we're not talking about particular illnesses. We're talking about those which fall outside of that category of
sure,
maybe therapy can help these people, for instance, have a concept of consent or some kind of desire because maybe their cognitive functions aren't to that level.
hmm,
All I'm really saying is that if we want to appeal to the possibility that in the future that could be different, then that would go both ways, and we would also appeal to the possibility that in the future we could have technology or resources or methods which could allow us to kind of increase the general intelligence and awareness of animals as well, right? It would just go both ways if we're appealing to possibility.
it wouldn't go both ways because we haven't seen any proven cases where an animal is more intelligent than a human, even like the smartest of
Wait,
humans. In
but you
like
said it was possible, right? Are you
for
appealing
what?
to like what?
What did I say it
Are
was
you appealing
possible
to
for
like?
though?
Oh, you said it was possible for humans
Hmm.
to achieve a higher level. I'm just curious. Are you appealing to possibility in the sense that it's not logically impossible, or are you trying to stay within what's happening in reality currently?
So when you say appeal to a possibility, what do you mean exactly by that? Because I think I'm
Sure. Okay.
misunderstanding what
So
you
let's.
mean by
Yeah.
that.
This is sure. I think we need to clarify. So you keep saying that it's possible for this to be the case or that to be the
Right.
case, and I keep taking that as you saying that it's a logical possibility that it's not
Oh,
impossible. So do you want to clarify on what you mean when you
yeah.
say possible? Because I think we're having a misunderstanding.
So as medicine develops, so does the capacity for us to rehabilitate anyone and everyone to being like your average human of intelligence. So
Yeah.
that's not
But don't
talking
like.
about making impossibilities possible. That's just
Oh,
like
sure.
science is sort of what I'm talking about.
But then it's equally possible as well that
Hmm.
um, that these rehabilitation rates fail. For instance, there's a rate of failure. I don't think there's a 100% rate of success for these kinds of things. So I mean, the possibilities exist on both
But
sides of the aisle. But
I,
how
I
do you
I
know?
disagree with that because I don't think like let's say a monkey will have the capacity to ever be able to build like a house like mine.
Okay,
Whereas
when you
I could
say
I
that
if
that
like
it will
let's
ever
say
be
science does develop and then we're able to figure out like how to fix, I don't know, particular mental disabilities, then they
okay,
have that they have, yeah.
when you say you don't think it will ever be possible, right? That's a pretty blatant. appeal to logical possibility, where you say that it's impossible for that to be the case. What's the contradiction in it being possible for a monkey to someday achieve the amount of intelligence or awareness an average human has at this current date?
Testing.
If we're going to talk about probabilities, or is that what you want to get
No, no,
into?
no. Well, I know that we were talking about probabilities, but you
Mm,
just made the claim that you don't think it will ever be possible for monkeys to have that level of awareness or intelligence, and that's just a blatant appeal to saying that it's impossible. I'm just curious what the
right.
contradiction is to it.
Based on the educated guess, which is what everything is in this world, in terms of what we know, is educated guesses. Like based the most reliable theories and probabilities are still theories at the end of the day. So nothing is like conclusive because we still don't understand everything. But based on
Sure.
the most conclusive evidence, and or you could say the most educated guess, we haven't seen even the most intelligent. I don't know whatever you want to take as the most intelligent animal. I don't know what that is, but let's say it's a monkey. Then in the last however many thousand years we've been recording data, we don't have any data of a monkey being able to build a Lamborghini.
Okay. What if I made the argument to you that, like, during the 1800s, we had never seen a human being ever make a cell phone, therefore it is impossible for cell phones to
Well,
ever be
we could
invented
make it
by
relative
humans?
to that time period. So in that time period, the average person was able to build like a farm.
Well, I agree, but that would you say that that a monkey will never do something that isn't relative to the time
They've
period?
never been
It's
proven to make
relative
a
to
farm.
eternity. Okay, but okay, I'm
So
saying that
so
when I
let me
say
let me
this,
let me put
okay,
it.
but you
Yeah.
wouldn't wait,
Okay, you go
but
first. You
you
go
wouldn't
first.
ever say that yeah, you wouldn't ever say in the 1800s that because no human has ever invented the cell phone, there will never be a cell phone invented by humans, right? That would just be a really weird claim to make out of that.
Well, you wouldn't be able to predict that. See, like this is what the
Yeah, but
kind of,
you're not able to predict that monkeys won't get to that level, right? Like
but
you're just
you
not
can,
able to.
based off conclusive evidence that you've recorded and compiled, you can make an educated guess. There's a difference. So, for example,
That's
if
a
like
different
we
claim.
know that Saitama factually doesn't try his hardest in his fights, and he's technically immeasurable. We don't know his potential, but at the moment, based on his feats, Goku will clap Saitama. Why? Because Goku has proven feats that are greater
Okay,
than
but that's not
planetary. No, so the point
that's
is
not
that
okay. But
when you're making
that's a different claim. Wait, you're equivocating the claims here. There's a difference
how
between the claim that
one's an
because
educated
there's a
guess, and
different.
then one
Okay,
is like
no.
literal guess.
Do you think that saying that Saitama has never shown Goku level feats would
Hmm.
support the claim that Saitama will never defeat Goku?
Well, that's the
Do
thing,
you think
though.
that
Okay,
supports
no, it's
that
still consistent
conclusion?
with my logic. So, like Goku, right? He's
It's
also
not.
infinitely getting stronger. Saitama is also getting infinitely stronger, right? But from what we've seen with Saitama, we have seen nothing but past this level of intelligence or
Yeah, but
level of
this is just
of.
this is just a confusion of deductive versus inductive reasoning. You're
It's the
taking
same
your
logic.
inductive observation. It's not. You're taking your inductive observations, which only ever talk about probability, and extrapolating them into a conclusion that something will never be the case logically, which is something you would need to deductively prove,
I
right?
never
So
said it would never be the case logically. I said as like an educated guess
you
based
did. You
on.
said monkeys will never be able to reach this
Yeah,
level.
based on
So
educated
if
guess from, if you look at the track history of have they ever built a building, have they ever built a Lamborghini? Right now, at this state, they're not as intelligent as humans, right? And that's
okay, I'm
based off
saying that that
all the
conclusion
different
doesn't
fields
follow
of
from that
intelligence.
reasoning.
So if we're looking at all the multiple different intelligences in terms of mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, all these different levels of intelligence, or the ways that we measure, they don't live up to those categories.
Okay, but this
And
is again, this is
yeah,
not a conclusion that you would derive from inductive observation. I can agree that based on what we know currently, we cannot make the claim that Saitama would beat Goku. In fact, what we know currently, Goku would beat Saitama, but
right.
that's a different claim from saying that Saitama will never beat Goku, right? I'm just trying to get you to understand that the claim you made was not supported by you saying that monkeys have never been shown to do this before.
Yes, Saitama's never been shown to beat Goku before or do any feats that would suggest that he would beat Goku.
Okay,
That's
but you
that. There's
do
no
realize
difference
that.
in the
But okay,
in
but
my
okay,
logic, because I'm the difference
okay,
between what I'm doing and you're doing is I have an educated guess based on facts, and then yours is like
but you're
maybe
but
you
what
could
you're not.
possibly have an animal that
Hold
will
on,
one
but
day
what you
maybe
but
be
why are
stronger.
hold on.
or better
But
than a
if your
human.
claim, okay, do you really think that you can prove a logical contradiction using educated guesses? Do you think that's something you can do?
Well, logic is literally a theory. It's literally an
No,
educated
no,
guess.
okay, no, but that's not what I'm asking.
So I
No, it's
have to
not.
use educated
So
guesses
again,
to use logic.
no, what do you think okay, educated guesses are based on like your observations that you make,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you try to reason using your
And so what's
observations. Well, if
reasoning?
I
Where does
know
that
this,
come from? Where does logic come from?
okay, again,
It comes from
that's
theories
the
of
entire, hold
educated
on, that's
guesses.
the, okay. No, that's the entire thing though, right? You cannot use inductive reasoning to reach deductive conclusions or truth conclusions because you don't actually know if that's the case or not. You're not proving a certainty. You're just proving that you think that'll be the case based on your experience. That doesn't entail a logical contradiction. If I see that for 19 days straight, if I see like 19 red apples fall out of my tree for 19 days straight, that does not prove the conclusion that it is impossible for a yellow apple to fall out on the 20th day because I don't know that's the truth. I don't know that that's a contradiction just because I haven't seen it before.
Yeah, so if we're going to go to the root of all logic, we know nothing. You know, if we're going to go back of Socrates, right? Like, he literally stated, I know one
I
thing, and
don't.
that it is I know nothing.
I don't know. I don't accept that. I think that's a really conflicting
Well,
statement. I think
well,
that's
well,
dumb to
we'll, we'll
follow.
try to prove it. Like, what is the definition of love?
No, it's an unprovable claim. It's an unprovable claim. If you know nothing, then you don't know that you know nothing. It's just self-refuting. I don't like want to go into that weird philobabble. All I'm saying is
Well,
that
like
you're
you
basically
can try
appealing
to
to
prove
ignorance here.
anything in this world, but you can't prove anything because everyone's perception of it is different.
Wait, do you can you prove that?
So, like I said, if you
If you
if
can't
I
prove
ask you the
anything, can you
definition of
prove
love,
that?
what do you think it is? Because I don't think it's going to be the
Wait,
same
no,
as
no,
what
no,
I
no.
think
I'm
it
just
is.
asking you. I'm just asking you. If you can't prove anything, can you prove that you can't prove anything?
That's literally the point. So, like, if somebody
No, the
made the
point is that
claim
no, no,
that
no. But that's
if
okay. But you
okay,
have
you
to
can cut me off if
understand
you
that's
want.
inherently. I have to because you're not understanding that's
Oh, I
inherently
understand.
self-refuting. But then why would you ever argue something that's inherently self-defeating?
Because you don't understand the whole concept of obviously you probably haven't studied philosophy, so you
Oh
don't
my
know that
god.
particular concept.
Wait,
But
I have. Wait,
well, then explain it to me.
you just okay, again, you're just like repeating like epistemic skepticism, but to the extreme, right? When you say that you don't, the only thing you know is that you don't know anything, you're making a knowledge claim that you don't know
Okay,
anything, which is
so this is
contradictory
very
when you say you don't
simple.
know
This is a
anything.
very simple statement that he made, right? So if you were
I
to
agree.
if you were to like let's look at the concept of gravity, right? How do you know that every single person on this earth is affected by gravity and is actually standing on the earth or is being pulled towards the earth? How do you know that? Have you actually seen every single
Well,
person on the
okay.
earth with your own eyes?
Wait, that's the thing. I agree. Like observations that we physically make
Yeah.
don't lead us to truth statements, only probability. The only thing that leads us to truth statements is deductive reasoning, because deductive reasoning has a set of premises that are either true or not, and based off of if these premises are true, we arrive at true conclusions. They're not valuable in the same sense that inductive reasoning is, because in inductive reasoning, we could be lacking some kind of context. So when you say that it's logically impossible for a monkey or an animal to do blah blah, but it's possible for a human to do so, and your basis for that is that you've never seen them do that before, not only is that essentially an appeal to ignorance, but you're just drawing a false conclusion because you can't arrive at that kind of like logical impossibility from
So you
observational
just proved what I
experience.
said. I literally, right, based on the exact logic, you can't prove anything. That's the
No,
whole
I reject.
Socrates argument.
Oh
If
my
you
god.
no, because you said like if I just because I haven't seen monkeys build a building means that doesn't mean that they can't.
Can you
That is
can you
no
prove
different
can
to
you
the
prove that
gravity
argument?
argument that I just
Can
proved.
you prove that argument? Can you prove that
I just
argument
did.
that we
The
can't
fact that we don't know
that we
anything. So how can you make
but do you know that
a
you
logical
wait
deductive
do you know
reasoning as you
wait
stated
do you
based
know
off that?
wait do you know that you don't know anything?
That's how I know.
No, do you know that that's how you know? Do you know anything?
Yeah.
Wait, if you know something, then that refutes the claim that we don't know anything.
So the first thing I said was I know one thing, and that is I know nothing. That's the statement that Socrates made, right? So that's still
How do
one
you
thing.
not see the Yeah, I reject that. That's a contradiction. You cannot know something and not know something at the same time.
That's not necessarily true because if you know,
That is
if you no, in order to know joy, you have to know the opposite of joy, not joy. In order to know
why.
sadness, you'd have to know the opposite of sadness, which is not sadness. Because
Wait, what does this have to do with
how
it?
can you know anything without knowing the opposite? You have to have
Wait,
there has to be a contradiction
do
in
you
all
think that?
things
Wait, do you think there's?
to
Wait,
have
do
a
you think there's
knowledge.
an opposite? Wait. Do you think there's an opposite to the law of identity?
The law of identity would be the opposite of that. Would be the law of non-identity.
Wait, but would the law of non-identity need to be itself?
I never said it would be itself. I said that there's an opposite
No, no,
in things in order to know
no.
the other.
Wait, I'm saying that it would need to be, because if the law of non-identity wasn't itself, then it would not be the law of non-identity. What I'm saying is, for there to be a contradiction to the law of identity, is for there to be a that's just contradictory in nature. It's self-defeating, but we know it despite that, even though there is no dual to it.
That's because it's its own thing.
Okay, I'm saying that we have these certain axioms that we hold that are necessarily true because the opposite of them is contradictory, and we know them despite the fact that there is
All
no
right. So
opposite, which
if
is a
you
refutation to what you said.
here's a really simple example. If you know the difference between things, right? What's the difference between salt and sugar?
What's the difference between salt and sugar?
Yeah.
Sure, I could probably make some kind of classification in what their chemical makeup is or whatever.
Yeah, but how would you know the difference between salt and sugar?
How would I know the difference between salt and sugar? It would be through deductive reasoning. I could say salt is salt, sugar is sugar. Therefore, you could hold the law of identity as true and say they cannot be the same. They have their own identities. You could hold that, for instance.
Because if you were to look at them, they look the same pretty much. And if you, the only way you could really know the
No,
difference is if you experience the difference. So
no,
you'd
that's
have to
not true.
try salt, and then you have
That's
to,
not true.
or
That's
like
not
it
true.
is, because like you said yourself, like
No,
you'd
you
have to
have
look at the properties. That's sight.
no.
Experience is sight
You hold on. You
as
could
well.
have the understand. You could understand that salt is P and sugar is not P.
Yeah, but you without experience with them, you wouldn't know the difference. That would be the same.
Do you think that they're are you talking about how I know something or how things are distinguished in objective
Yeah,
reality?
so we're talking about knowledge and how it's obtained and
Oh, knowledge.
like if I know anything at all, the only way you can know something is if you actually experience things in the first place.
Well,
So
you do realize? Okay, so firstly,
you get where I'm going with this, right? If you have
yeah, I
never
understand
seen
where you're going
monkeys
with this.
building things, how can you conclusively state that a monkey has the infinite potential to build like a human?
Because because you can recognize that it's a logical possibility without having seen it. You're just arguing from ignorance at this point.
No, so
You do
it's
realize.
arguing
Wait,
from
you
no.
do realize? No, you're just arguing from ignorance, saying that I've never seen a monkey do this, therefore a monkey will never do this, even though it's logically possible for them to do this.
Yeah, but like, look, so
Sure.
if you're gonna base,
What's the contradiction to the monkeys not being able to ever do that? I just want to hear that.
so that was your claim, right? That the monkey would never be able to do that. This is what I said.
No.
Based on what we've seen, a monkey from all of history and recorded history by humans has never been proven to perform any of the intellectual feats that humans can. So if
So
you're
it's
looking,
possible for them to be able to.
but it's also possible for humans to be infinitely greater as well. So,
Wait,
so if we're gonna,
I
because
agree
this
with
is this,
that. I don't
and
think
that's
it's
why I
that's why
brought
I
the
don't think
analogy of
it's a constant.
Saitama versus Goku. Based on track history, we know that Goku's gonna beat Saitama right now. So we can conclude safely, based on an educated guess, that Goku is going to be the greater person to choose in terms of who's going to win in a fight. Because we know from track
Yes,
history
okay,
that Goku
that's
has
fine.
literally
I'm
destroyed
saying,
multiple planets or solar
but
systems,
that's not what I'm
universes,
saying.
whereas Saitama, he's only destroyed a planet. So if you're a
Okay,
universal being
hold on. What is
against a
the con?
planetary
Wait,
being, who's clearly going to be the more intelligent here,
okay.
is what I'm saying.
What is the con? Wait, what is the contradiction in Saitama ever being able to beat Goku?
I
Why
never
would you
said he
say
will
be able
never
to
be
do?
able to. I just said from this track
Okay,
history, proven, like, that's the
but
difference
that's
between an
different.
educated guess and an uneducated guess. The educated guess
Okay,
would be taking real
that's the
data
point.
that you can conclusively like analyze and look at, and this is based off real life experiences. So I've experienced Goku destroying universes. I have not
Okay,
seen
that's
Saitama do
fine.
the same. So because I
So
have
then you okay,
experienced
okay.
that,
So then
I
you
know
if you,
for a
so then
fact that Goku will beat Saitama right now. That's the
okay,
difference.
so if you hold on, so if you agree that you're not actually refuting that it will ever be possible for monkeys to do blah blah blah, then you're conceding your claim that A monkey will never be able to be this.
Yeah, but I didn't claim that, remember? I said I claimed
You
that.
did.
No, no, no. I clarified everything I've said multiple times, okay?
Okay,
Unless
so
if you're
then
gonna
so
unless if
then
you're gonna
say what you
strawman me
mean.
into that one small statement. But
No, I'm just asking you to say what you
in
mean
the
because
whole
you're
list, I've recorded
probably
the debate, by the way, just like my parts. I won't
okay.
share it with anyone. It's just for me. But I can like go back and like listen to it and see what I said. But what I'm
I don't care if
literally
you upload it or anything. I'm just saying.
okay, that's cool. But all I'm saying is that from my argument has always been consistent with what I've clarified it to be, which is that I never said that animals don't have a greater potential to like develop, evolve, or be more intelligent. I never said anything like that. I did say that right now, based on educated guesses, if we look at track history of animals' intelligence in comparison to humans' level of intelligence, humans are significantly been proven to be more intelligent. Therefore, based on
So
that,
you're talking about probability, not potential.
so yeah, that's why I asked you, is this about probability earlier, right? And so based
Yes,
off
and I clar
probability, the humans are far greater in terms of an educated guess in probability being more intellectual or more intelligent than animals.
Okay. Do you think that if we were to look into statistics of the failure rates of this therapy that you talked about earlier, in terms of helping these disabled people getting better, do you think if you look at these failure rates that you would find a kind of disproportionate demographic of people? For instance, maybe a group of people with
Well,
this
this is why I'd
specific
say
condition
no,
show up
because
most of
if we
all.
look at the failure rates of retarded animals too, and then compare that to the retarded humans would be smarter than the retarded animals.
Firstly, again, I don't think okay. Firstly, I don't think that we have nearly as many studies that are
like
trying to get.
hear me
Actually,
out.
that's not true. That's not true at all. That's not true
Let
at
me
all. That's
find
not true at
a
all.
let me find
Wait,
an
wait. That's not true
autistic
at all. That's
monkey,
not
and then
true at
we'll
all. Hold
find an
on. Hold on.
autistic human, and we can compare.
That's not true at all. Hold on. There have been plenty of studies out there that take even animals as stupid as fucking mice, which aren't even close to the top of the food chain or top of the brains chain,
But
in
how do
terms
we
of the
measure
animal
that?
kingdom. Hold on, we
How do you
measure
measure
that.
that?
Wait, hold on. Okay, they've had experiments and tests that relate to these animals' memory, for instance, or their ability to use tools to function, and their ability to recognize patterns, etc.
Mm.
And their cognitive functions going through that training were higher, right? Consistently higher, or at least on par with the near vegetable estate people that we're talking about, right? So it doesn't seem like there's a probability argument in your favor for animals just not having the probability to at least surpass the intelligence and awareness of these. I guess I
If
don't
we're
know what the
taking a
term is.
very
Mentally.
very minute amount of the average human population, so if we're going to
Well, yeah,
base
I agree. It's
morality
going to be.
off
Wait, it's inherently going to be minute, right? Because we were
yeah,
talking
but
about a
who
group of
bases
people with
my
more than just
morality
one.
off the minority?
Hold on. The reason that I'm asking about the minority is because it seems like you would, unless I'm like mistaken, presumably you wouldn't kill people that are being outperformed by literal like mice or whatever during these like cognitive tests, right? Like, would you? Would you like kill them?
Because the average human has been conclusively proven to be higher in intelligence, and
Okay, I'm aware maybe the
if they
average
fall
human
under the
has
human
been, but we're
species,
not
because
talking about the average
my whole
human.
argument was this to
Wait,
start,
I
right?
don't care about the average human. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
probability
well, I do care about
of the
human beings
minority
because
of
that's a
humans.
horrible thing to
Okay,
say.
I do too. Wait, what's a horrible thing to say?
That you don't care about the average human being.
Oh my
Do you want
god,
to
I
make
don't care
sure?
about them in the context of your argument. No.
Okay, okay. I'm glad you clarified that.
What I'm saying is that I care about the probability of for instance, these demographics of people who often aren't able to cognitively get to that level, whereas there's a probability for these animals who receive training to reach these kind of cognitive levels. Some of the farm animals we eat are statistically less likely to be more intelligent than dogs, and you've seen the kind of cognitive abilities and awareness of dogs. So I don't see how this probability argument favors you.
So, again, going back to the human species argument, which I literally said, I don't see how intelligence is even a good reasoning for the morality of not eating animals, because in terms of intelligence, it's been statistically proven from educated guesses that humans are in a more intelligent species.
Generally speaking, yes. However, I'm not talking about
Yeah,
the
so
majority of people.
I don't have a problem.
I'm asking you. Wait. I'm asking you, what kind of moral value do you extend to people who fall outside of the norm? Because earlier you said that you would still consider them valuable as human beings, etc.
Yeah,
But they fall outside of the norm. So why is that?
because technically all humans aren't even human. Every human is different, but we just categorize them as humans.
Wait, but wait, that didn't address the question. If your justifications for not killing humans are appealing to traits and statistics within the average human, but you're also applying them to people who fall outside of the demographic of what we would consider average humans and are comparable, if not inferior, to the
It
cognitive
it
abilities of
actually
these
does
animals.
make logical sense because look at it this way. Like, how do we know the difference between animals and humans?
I don't think there's a difference. I think that there's an arbitrary difference that's established. I don't believe in
If
objective
that's true, then we
species as
shouldn't
a
be
thing.
eating anything. If there's no difference between
That's not
animals and
true at
humans and
all.
plants, then we
No,
shouldn't be
no, no,
eating
no.
anything.
Again, that's true. No, no, no. I don't think that's the conclusion to be drawn from that. I think the conclusion to be drawn is that speciesism is a terrible kind of like categorization. I think that awareness and cognitive abilities and desires is much more important, right? Plants don't seem to have these desires, whereas animal species seem to. And what I was saying was that it seems like these species, like categories, are arbitrarily drawn, right? Like I
What
don't
about
think there's
things
any
like
objective
oysters? Do
difference
oysters
there.
have desires?
I'm not very educated on
So
oysters.
oysters are considered meat. They're considered animals, but
Yeah.
they don't have any conscious. They don't have a brain. They have a heart, and they have not been proven to feel though.
Okay. Have they been proven not to feel? I don't know. I'm not very educated on oysters.
They don't have a central nervous system, so they can't be considered like a
Okay.
sentient life. But they're an animal, and they are considered meat. So
Okay.
would it be
So
okay for
again,
me to eat that?
well, actually, I think there you can make a different argument for oysters that have to do with the morality of wiping out such an important piece to the ecosystem, and how it would affect the well-being of other animals whose lives would matter. So even if I don't give the same justification for oysters, I think a more ecological, ethical justification could be given anyway,
But would you find it
right?
acceptable to eat an oyster? Is the question.
Well, no, because of the implications that would have to the value of people who exist around them, for instance. Maybe if you were to make some kind of weird like vacuum argument, but again, we don't live in a vacuum. We live in I guess we live in a society, and the implications of our actions impact people other than us.
So what if it had no impact on the environment because there's a ton of oysters? And the only
Well,
impact would
that's
be
not
that the oysters are affecting the environment, so we need to get rid of them. If that was the case, what would you still consider it food?
I'm not sure what you're asking. I
Like,
think if you are you trying to ask,
would you
well, why?
consider it morally correct to eat an oyster? It doesn't have sentience, so to speak, because it doesn't feel. It doesn't have a central nervous system. It does have a heart. It does breathe. It is live. It is meat.
Yeah.
Would you consider it something
Okay.
you
Yeah.
could eat?
I'm saying no, because even if that's the case, it has implications for the health and well-being and
So
livelihood of
that's
other
no
animals
different to
that
eating a
seriously
plant
could
then,
matter.
because plants don't have a central nervous system, and they do live, but they don't have a central nervous system then. So what's the
That's
difference?
not true at all. Well, there's actually that's not true at all. For instance, there are plants that are that we can grow that, for instance, don't actually have any kind of implications for the environment, and we can grow them at much higher mass quantity than we can do for meat, so that we would never have to worry about not being able to support the demand for food in our world. For instance, oysters will
I
always
wasn't
have
talking
these
about the food
ecological.
demand. I was just like the morality of eating it. Would it be moral to eat
Yeah,
something that's sentient or not?
I'm saying that I think that a lot. I'm saying that I think that a lot of plants that you could imagine don't have the ecological implications that oysters necessarily have, just because of the environment that they need to be within in order to live in the first place. Whereas, for instance, plants, there's plenty of them that you could just grow on your own in mass quantities that don't actually harm the environment by killing. Right? We're not talking about massive deforestation. That just doesn't happen within veganism as it's practiced today.
Ooh, are you sure about
No,
that?
I'm serious.
Are you sure about
I'm
palm
serious.
olive? What
For
about
instance, if
palm
you
olive oil?
so again, when we're talking about veganism, right? So there's I'm not sure about olive oil specifically, but
You
like
know
I know
that's
that
like
most of the
60% of deforestation is caused by that.
no. That's okay. Can you provide me some kind of statistic that
All right,
60% of
I'll show you.
deforestation? Actually, you know what? That's not okay. You need to prove that olive oil is going towards um, commodities, because I know an argument like this that applies to soy, where people talk about how a huge chunk of soy and
No,
the
no, no. Your argument was
deforestation
that
surrounding that.
vegans or something have less of an impact on uh,
The
the
environment
deforestation or
than
something like that.
non-vegan.
But my
Yes,
main
that's
argument
objectively
here
true.
was saying that the main cause of that is from a product that's not necessarily for an animal product. It's just a different product made of vegetables, right? That was actually a major cause
Well,
for
I don't think that's
deforestation.
actually true. I think
Well,
the main
what?
cause of deforestation is soy collection that's used for farm animals. I don't think that's even true at all. Hold on, I'll get you this. So soy is actually the second largest agricultural source of deforestation worldwide, and the vast majority of soy products are used for for basically helping grow farm animals for these non-vegan, obviously,
Wait, so you
commodities.
think it's a bad thing to feed the animals?
No, I, I don't think that at all. I'm saying
So
that the
how
current
are we going to
methods which we
provide for
use.
all these animals
Hold
if you don't
on,
believe in killing them?
I don't. Okay, I don't think, for instance, okay, first of all, we actually overfeed these animals. Did you know, actually, that's a good point you bring up. Did you know that we've actually increased the amount of food and whatnot that these animals are consuming multiple times past what they are naturally supposed to do for the sake of, for instance, having cows produce more milk or being bigger and beefier, etc. So that's not actually an issue. We just produce that much for the animals because we force them to have multiple times what they need, which is actually objectively true. So I don't think that's an issue at all.
There's actually plenty of animals and plenty of humans even that don't have enough for what they need.
Okay, but that again, that's actually not a production issue. That's a distribution issue. And if
Yeah.
you want to fix that kind of, okay, so then you don't need to produce as much soy or other commodities for animals that we currently do. We don't need that kind of production. We can halt on that, but we need to fix the distribution that we do. You obviously know why people don't get what they need, right? It's because of the profits that are not to be found in these areas where people are low income, for instance, right?
So people with low income and they don't have any other sources of food, sometimes they can only eat meat. We should just like skip
Yes, I
them.
think yes, I No, actually, I think that vegan foods will be cheaper. For instance, we already have vegan foods, even though they're lower in supply uh, than non-vegan foods, which are relatively priced to non-vegan foods. But the reason they would likely be cheaper is because not only would, well, actually, yeah, the amount of things that we can produce are vastly more in quantity than non-vegan things because of just how little land space vegan products take to grow and manufacture, etc., compared to non-vegan alternatives, right?
But what are we going to do about the animals? If we
Again,
stop producing
again, we do,
soy, or if we
again, that's not a again. They don't need all of the things that we produce for them because it's objectively true that we overfeed them and over give them materials and resources multiple times more than what each of them naturally needs just so we can literally milk uh, every ounce of profit out of them.
so you're aware that one of the biggest impacts on the environment is livestock.
Yes, one of the biggest impacts, and you know why? It's because of the soy and
So what
deforestation that we
happens
use
if
to
if
collect this
we if
soy.
we just stop having these like mass produced or like factory farming, and then we let all these animals do whatever they want, and then we don't necessarily feed them. Instead, we let them naturally go to
Well,
their own causes. They're
I
going
think
to
we would
destroy
have.
more forest, more nature.
That's not true at all. Wait, can you prove that? Since when do
So,
animals? Firstly, I don't even know if we would actually release them because the current generation of animals are entirely non-dependent. So I don't even know if it'd be ethical to release them. I think that we would still have to keep them. However, since we aren't keeping them for non-vegan uses, the amount of investment we would have to put into them, both monetarily as well as production-wise, would be vastly lower than it has been for years now. But
so,
even if like I steel man you, I don't even think that would be the case at all.
so there's a TED talk from a doctor, and his name's Alan Savory, and he killed 50,000 elephants in his entire career, in order to,
Okay.
to see the impact that animals have on the environment. And he actually showed that animals are the reason for harming the environment, and that's what caused deserts to go from,
Wait.
in Africa,
Okay.
the deserts expanded to cover two-thirds of the country, or the continent, or the different countries that he was working in Africa, that is. But the point is that if it wasn't for animals destroying all the.
Okay, do you think we can make the same arguments for human beings, but to a massively higher rate, especially when it comes to climate change and especially when it comes to
Well,
urban
that's where the
development? Do you
solution
really
matters, and the solution that he
should
gave,
we start killing humans?
the solution he gave was that we actually needed the industry, and the way that it needed to be
Okay,
fixed was through holistic farming. And so he gave a better, because you said it yourself, that distribution management is a better solution than the cutting out the entire industry as a whole or getting rid of the consumption
well,
of meat.
okay, but do you think that there should be a human genocide industry as a result of urban development and pollution and climate change brought about by humans at a much more severe rate than any animal?
Wait, say it again.
Do you think that the same thing should happen to human beings because we've had a much bigger impact than any animals on the planet have had for any period of time
Well,
ever?
we already do that now in terms of morality. When people do bad things, they're
Yeah,
put in prison.
wait, but do you think that we should genocide people, for instance, for driving their cars or flying planes or creating demand for
No,
corporations that pollute the environment? Okay, so then why would we do it for animals who do it at a much lower rate?
he never genocided them for that purpose. He was
Then what is this argument for?
it was a theory that he had that if we remove the animals from a particular area, will like the environment or the ecosystem replenish itself, and will the forests and and the rain and the water come back into desert areas? And he proved yes.
Okay,
If you
so is this an
controlled,
argument for
if you
keeping them in
made
farms?
so if you made a correct, he actually said that the way you do it is you use livestock to regenerate the land, and you have to do it through
That's
holistic
fine.
farming. But the only way you can do that is by maintaining the industries that we have, but we manage them differently to the
Why would
way
that be
that,
the only way that we can? Why would that be only the only way that we can
because
maintain
if we
farming?
were to just release them like into the wild and have no control over the animals, they will leave left to their own accord. They will destroy and eat as much as they
Yes,
can.
no. What I'm saying is that why couldn't we just keep them or preserve them in these farms for just one
Because
generation?
who's gonna pay
Wait,
for
wait,
that?
wait.
Who's gonna pay for that?
Again, wait, again. We already wait a second. Do you really think that we can't allocate some kind of money or resources to that, like just for the
Yes,
sake
based
of
on
giving
like
them
so
nothing?
if you went outside and started asking people to pay for a bunch of cows and it's going to cost X trillion amount of dollars, uh, do you think people are going to
Wait,
donate to you?
I'm not talking about the pragmatics of getting these collecting these kinds of taxes. Although we could have that conversation. What I'm saying is that
It's
because it's the
the
ethical thing to
reality of it is
do.
it's not going to happen. No one's going
Wait,
to
wait, wait.
give up that much money.
Hold on. You realize that they already do, right? And you realize that we can defund certain programs, such as the military or the police, and allocate those resources annually towards helping these farmers being able to do so. We do this all the time, right? I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do this. And it's only going to last like
So
one generation of
maybe
animals,
in
so you
America that
wouldn't need
applies,
produce.
but in countries like where I'm from, in Australia and New Zealand is 70% reliant on the dairy and factory farming industry. If you get rid of
Yeah,
that
that's
industry
fine.
altogether, that's 70% of the entire
Wait,
country's jobs gone.
nobody's talking about wait, firstly, you can make the same argument against slavery, right? That you would cripple the economy by getting rid of slavery. But
Yeah, but
secondly, you're presupposing
70% of the entire economy is reliant on that.
Yes, you can make the same argument for slavery. The majority of the economy, as far as I'm aware, this was before like the industrial period, was dependent on slavery. What I'm saying is that you're also
How
presupposing.
are cows related to slavery?
Okay, I'm not relating cows to slavery. I'm relating the reasoning behind not defunding or not removing these
So
careers from
we're
existence,
equating
right?
cows to be equal to
No.
enslaving humans.
No. I'm equating the reasoning you gave for not wanting to get rid of these like jobs. You said it was because it would cripple like the economy, it would cripple people's jobs and the people's all this stuff. But you can make the same argument for
No, I don't think it's
slavery,
the
even
same
if somebody
argument
made
at all. I don't think
really. What's
at
the difference?
all that enslaving
What's the
humans
difference?
is enslaving humans is significantly worse than
Why?
because this we're not
Why?
talking about enslaving cows. First of all, the farmers
Hold on.
care for cows, they feed them, they
Wait, no,
care
they
for them
don't. No, they
every.
don't. Wait.
Are you fucking
No, they
serious? Have you
don't.
ever been on a farm?
No, they don't. Wait, no, they don't. Firstly, they separate them from their children. Then they
They
proceed to
separate them from their
overfeed
children.
them. Then they proceed to
Not all
overfeed them. Then
farmers are
they
like
proceed
that.
to most of them are, especially dairy cow farmers. And secondly, after they remove their children from them, they proceed to rape them by inseminating them so they can produce
Yeah,
milk.
okay.
And
So
then
you
when
said it
these cows are
yourself.
done
We
with their use,
overfeed the cows. We give them more
yes,
food than
to
they
the
need.
point where it's unhealthy.
At which
Wait,
point,
no, no, no,
at
no.
which
There's
point
a
were
difference between
slaves
giving them more
overfed?
food than they
At
need and
which point were
stuffing their
slaves
face.
given that good of a treatment?
No, no, no. You're not understanding.
I don't
Getting
think you're
stuffed.
understanding
No,
the
no, no.
kind
Do
of
you think if I
treatment
fed you
that
eight
my
times what you're
people, as
supposed
well
to,
as
that you would
other
feel
people
good?
that were enslaved,
That
received,
your
is
people, nigga, I'm
significantly
black people.
higher than
Nah,
the treatment that cows
nah,
had.
nah, nah,
What do you
nah.
mean, nah?
Chill out,
Are you
Happy.
serious?
Chill out,
I
Happy.
am
Do you
chill.
really think that if I stuff your fat face with 8 times more than your stomach requires, that you're gonna feel good? Is that the shit that you're gonna think, Happy? I like getting stuffed with my face 8 times more than
Do you
I
really
need. I'm gonna feel
do
great
you
after
really
this.
think
I like
enslaving
getting
and
raped.
starving people is going to make you feel better?
Wait, I don't think that enslaving people is good. I'm saying that these are both immoral actions.
Yeah, but they
And the
don't even
argument that we
equate to
shouldn't give
anywhere
them.
near as immoral.
Yes, they
There's a
do. We're
difference.
literally talking about a genocide that involves heavy amounts of rape, splitting children, overfeeding cows to the point where it hurts them, and like I don't know why this isn't comparable. You have to presuppose that it's not immoral for you to say it's not comparable. But I feel like I've argued greatly enough that you have inconsistent moral values and that it is immoral. So I don't know why it can't be compared.
Because it's not comparison. Is there's literally no
It
comparison.
can't be compared
Slavery
because there's
compared
no
to factory
comparison.
farming is literally the opposite. Like I said, like if
Yeah,
you're
why?
okay,
Why? Why?
because
Why?
in
Why?
farming, people feed them. They actually care for them. They
They
even
feed
try
them
to.
so much. No, no,
Okay,
no, no.
okay,
Again,
okay.
you're
No,
not
I'll go.
listening.
No,
They feed them so.
you're not even hearing the whole side of the story. You know
No,
that
because
if you
you
leave,
keep saying
no,
the
you
first thing that
ignored
you
what I
say
said
is
before.
wrong,
If you
Happy.
leave animals to themselves, they will kill themselves. If you've ever been on
I
a dairy farm,
agree.
which I
I
have, my
agree.
family are dairy farmers. If you've ever been on a dairy farm, cows will literally, they're so stupid.
I
They
agree.
will
And I'm
crush
saying that
and
the
kill each
moral.
other
I
if left
agree.
on their
I
own.
agree.
Farmers
I
literally have
agree. I
to
agree.
you literally
You're
have to
arguing against
babysit
nobody
them,
right now.
care for
I
them in
agree.
order to make sure
You're
they don't
happy.
kill themselves.
You're
That's how
arguing against
stupid they
nobody right
are.
now.
And you're equating
You're
cows
arguing
to be
against
on the same
nobody.
level of
You're
intelligence
arguing
as
against
humans,
nobody.
and then you're
You're
stating
arguing
that
against
this is the
nobody.
same kind of
You're
slavery.
arguing against nobody. I'm not saying that that's incorrect. I already said
Yeah,
earlier
but
that the
you can't
moral
draw
thing
this
to do
comparison. That was the
wait. I
argument.
already said earlier that the most moral thing to do would be to keep them for a generation in farms until they die like naturally, and then we can let the wild do whatever the fuck they want because I don't think
So
wild
you're gonna
cows and
let
chickens
wild cows
are
do whatever
making
they want.
deserts.
They
I
oh,
don't
you
think
don't think?
wild
All
cows and
right.
chickens are doing
Well,
what they're.
here's the facts. They are.
Yeah, again, I gave you an article that says it listed the main causes of deforestation as things that were supplementary to the meat industry, the animal
Show me
agriculture
the article.
industry,
Where'd you
and you
send
like
that?
brought up. Okay, I'll send it again. It literally
I
says.
sent in general's. This guy is a doctor.
Yeah, I know that you said a TED talk, but I want actual studies. I'm not going to
Yeah,
bait you
read. You
anymore. I
can
want
read all of his
actual
studies.
studies.
You can
Wait,
go
wait, wait, wait.
research Alan Savory. He literally dedicated
No,
his
no, no.
entire
I'm not
life
doing
and
it. No,
50
no, no.
years of
No,
research.
you're not going to be lazy. You're not going to be lazy. Give me his data. Link me it. Give me the data and articles because I just gave you articles that the things that are primarily causing or some of the largest causes of this deforestation is going into factory farming and keeping these cows and stuff alive during this factory farming in these farms. Like
Yeah,
this is
nothing you said
counterintuitive
right now is
entirely to
on this
being an
article. This
environmentalist.
article you said has nothing to do with deforestation.
Okay, yeah, wait, it's literally
So
talking
maybe
about
you should
how the
stop being
second
lazy and
largest.
actually
No,
direct
no,
me
no, no,
to
no,
it.
no. Did you read it?
Yes, I read the whole thing already.
Did you read
I'm
it?
very aware of this website. I've sent this myself. Nothing in this particular article of soy
Okay,
proved that that it is the sole
wait a
cause
second,
or
wait
the
a second.
major
Let me
cause
write
of
it down. Let me write it
deforestation is
down.
from
Give me a sec.
soybeans. Where does it say that?
Hold on.
Where does it say that?
Blah blah blah. Let me read. Let me read. Let me read. Let me read. That's the one I sent.
Honey found a coupon code for
Okay. It's at the bottom. It
$221.
says the story of
We're
soy.
literally about to
It
check
literally
out what.
says at the bottom the story of soy about how it's the second largest agricultural deforestation cause, and
So
it
it's not
puts
the largest. So what's the largest?
it's the second largest. Here, we
So
can look it up.
what's the
It is the
largest one then?
largest. The largest cause of deforestation. Do you know what it is?
Desertification
Because I just looked it up.
is the
I just looked it up. Let's see. I don't want to like go on any of these sources you may call biased, but I'm seeing something that says beef. Let's see what NASA says. Causes of deforestation. The single biggest direct cause of tropical deforestation is conversion to cropland and pasture, mostly for subsistence,
Told
which
you.
is for growing crops
Farming.
or raising livestock to
Told
eat
you.
daily meat. For example, countries build roads into remote areas to improve overland transportation of goods. You do realize that the production of livestock, relatively
So
speaking, to the
you do
production and
realize I've
manufacturing of
literally stated this for
non-livestock
the
goods.
last hour that the best
Wait,
way
no,
to
no, no, no,
solve
no,
this
no, no.
problem
I
is
literally,
to
wait,
is to
it literally said,
manage holistic
no,
farming is
no.
what I said.
You
We
cannot
can
just,
go over the recording. I said if you
no,
manage the way that
listen,
livestock is used today, it
read,
would be able to prevent
okay. You know what?
deforestation.
Okay.
But you ignored
The
that and you
majority,
claimed that
you do
soybeans was the
realize that
main
the
cause.
majority, wait. You do realize that the animal agriculture industry, or the one that's being referenced in
Here's
this
his
article
article.
next to crop making. Yeah, read the article, right? It says crop making, but it also mentions the animal livestock as well. And the livestock industry just so happens to be very much larger and more predominant than this crop industry that we're talking about. You do realize that, right? Like,
Oh, I realize. I don't
let's
think you
read this
realize that
together.
you've actually been like supporting my argument the whole time.
Not really. Not really.
You do. You do.
Not really. I mean, in the Amazon, industrial scale cattle ranching and soybean production for the world markets are increasingly important causes of deforestation. In Indonesia, the conversion of tropical forests to commercial palm tree plantations to produce
Oh,
biofuels
there's
for
the palm
export.
olive oil thing. Palm tree.
Okay, this has nothing to do, right? We don't have to talk about fucking what is it? You can talk about green energy and veganism, and they're not mutually exclusive. However, it is the case that the hold on.
So, based off most of these arguments, I haven't seen any that would debunk the idea that consuming animals is wrong.
You do realize that most of the noted examples within the articles I sent related to animal agriculture, and a
And
few
then
of
you
them
do
related
realize
to
that the
things
solution I
that
provided was
weren't
holistic
animal
farming. I
agriculture.
already explained that.
No, again, why can't you have the solution of green energy and have it be
Green
non-mutually
energy
exclusive with
is not the same
veganism?
solution. That's a different topic.
Wait,
That's pollution.
I'm saying that. Wait, are they mutually exclusive?
That
Like, why can't
everything
like
is mutually interconnected. That everything affects everything. But that's not
no,
the
no, no.
topic. That
That's not what
the
I asked.
specific
Is
topic we're
it mutually
talking about.
exclusive to have? Wait. That's not what I asked. Is it mutually exclusive to have a large vegan industry in which you try to be vegan and to also utilize green energy or clean energy? Is there a contradiction in that?
So you think it's yes, like as in it's mutually like what exclusive?
Yeah, is there a contradiction in that you can use clean or green energy as well as be vegan or a vegan industry? Why can't we work towards both? All I was saying
I don't
earlier is
think
that I
that.
don't think it's a good. All I was saying, what I was saying earlier is that it's not a good argument
No,
against
I think
veganism
what
because
your that point right there is flawed. It's not that things aren't mutually
why?
exclusive. It's what you said. You said that green energy and veganism aren't separate, right? I don't think that
I
at all.
said
It's
no, no.
possible
I
to
said
be
they're not
vegan.
mutually exclusive.
Yeah, mutually exclusive.
I
So
said they're
like
not mutually exclusive. Then you could do both at the same time. I don't know why you couldn't, and they would be the
that's what
lowest
I'm saying.
hanging
I'm
fruit.
saying they're not separate. There are things that you could do together, right? Right?
Yeah, I
No?
agree. So
Yeah?
why couldn't you?
So
Yeah,
that's
I
why I'm
agree.
saying
That's why I don't think it's a good
but
argument against
But
veganism to
that's why
say
I'm
that.
saying the
Well,
green argument, right, would be to do holistic farming, which actually doesn't cut out the whole consumption of meat at all. It's possible to
yeah,
be a
why
vegan,
couldn't you just
but
do
then
that for one
support
generation? Where I just
the
wait,
environment.
I'm still waiting. Wait, I'm still waiting for the proof that animals are a major
I
cause
already
to
sent.
like actual accept. No, not really.
I
What?
did. I sent an article of desertification, and the
Where?
cause of it is from the lack of uh, management of animals.
Okay, is it a bad thing or what?
It is a bad thing. It's what's causing desertification across the globe.
What's wrong with desertification
Because
in
then
these
if you don't
areas?
have any livable or any like so even if you have okay so how many do you know the percentages of the earth from desert to actual growable like places that you can create agriculture
Yeah,
is
it's pretty low.
yeah so like 1/3 of all land that we live on you can actually grow things 2/3 of
Yeah,
that
what's wrong with
only
that?
animals can live there so
Wait.
What's
what's
wrong with that is
that?
that you've got continents like Africa, which is mostly desert. They don't have enough resources, or they can't sustain food, especially vegetables, because you can't grow anything there because it's desert.
Is that
So
an issue?
it is an issue.
Wait, is that an issue?
There's
Is
literally
that an issue in a world?
there's
Why?
there's millions of people dying of starvation in the African
Wait, do you
continent
think that?
because they
Wait,
can't
why do you
sustain
think that is?
themselves.
Why? No, that's not true at all. Why do you think
Yes,
that?
it is
Why do you think
true.
they can't
What?
sustain themselves?
So there's no
Do you think
what?
they can't
Wait.
sustain
You
themselves
don't.
because of
What
the
do you
lack?
not
Why do
agree
you think
with?
they
What
can't
do you think
sustain
is not
themselves?
true? What do
The
you think
premise
is not
that they're
true?
not able to sustain. Okay, I don't think it's true that they're dying because they're not able to produce food or
But
whatever
the
in their
article I
area.
just
I don't
sent
think that's true.
literally stated that in some areas in the African continent, this dude has lived there his entire life. He's a doctor in
That's
this
fine.
field. He has
Oh
multiple
shit, I'm
degrees.
at 3% battery.
Yeah, but the point
Hold on.
is that he literally said that.
Yeah, I'm asking, how do you justify the premise that what is it called? That that they're not able to survive because of that.
So these people have no access to other food sources unless if they're given aid from other countries, like the rice and maize or whatever they're given, which doesn't actually always
Yeah.
happen. It doesn't always reach them. So the only thing they have
Why
to
is
go to
that?
next
Why is that?
is because of
Why is that?
it's because of management of resources, the holistic farming that
No.
I was talking about,
Why is it
the
that they don't?
lack of management and the
No.
corruption of
I'm
people in
asking.
those
No, I'm
countries.
asking why is it? I'm asking why is
It's
it
because of the management of
currently
resources.
that
We
they are?
have
No,
enough.
hold
We
on. You haven't
have.
even let me answer the question.
Well, I answered your question because you asked it.
No,
Why is
I
that?
haven't asked the question. I said why isn't? Why is it? And you just kept like talking. Why is it that
Because I
you
was still
have
talking, but you kept questioning me mid talking. But anyways,
But
go.
why? But why is it? Why is it that they're not able to receive aid, or they're not able to see these exports that would help them, or blah blah blah? Why is it?
I just said that 3 times because of poor management of resources and corruption in the government.
What does that have to do with animals?
What do you mean it doesn't have anything to do with holistic farming? That's his
What does that
solution.
have to? No, what does that have to do? Wait, no. The solution
The
would
management
be
of
to fix the
resources
corruption and
is what
wait.
holistic farming is. That includes the cows.
Okay, but you don't have to keep cattle and murder them in order to fix the corruption in government. I'm just not understanding that.
I don't think you understand what the point is.
But I asked why is it that they're not able to get the aid and the exports or whatever that they need or deserve, and you said it was because of the corruption of government.
Yeah, so even if you donated all the money in the world, the governments in African countries will literally
Okay.
just come and take it all.
Then
Or
why would
or
you
even
rather
worse,
why would you
the
rather
corrupt
genocide
people.
why would you rather
So
genocide animals than fix the corruption of humans? You're
that's not
literally just
addressing the
avoiding.
question that I was
Like
just
that is
talking about.
addressing it.
It's a
You're
different.
literally just
You brought
avoiding
up
the
no.
evil
You brought up a
actions of
different
humans that
point,
just commit
and you're
further
not letting
evil.
me finish explain the entire point. Because if you're gonna give money, that's not gonna change anything with the governments there.
I
If you give
agree.
food, it's still not gonna feed the people that are
I
starving
agree.
there. The only way
I
that you
agree.
could help people eat food is if you help them to grow crops and eat the food. But the thing is, at the moment,
But you agree
it's desert. How can they grow things in the desert?
okay, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that places are deserts. I think that it's very natural for climates to change, and that doesn't necessarily
No, so
entail
the
that
point is, a
people who
vegan
live there
diet
aren't
is
able to
not
sustain
sustainable in
themselves.
the African continent. You
But why
can't.
is that? Is that
There
because of
is no
animals, or
vegetables to
wait, is
grow
that
in the
because of
desert.
animals? Hold on, is that because of animals, or is that because of humans?
It's both, and that's why I said his research. If you listen to me
Hold on,
before, he
hold on.
actually
So
showed.
why are you willing to commit immoral like murder, but you're not willing to fix the corruption in the government?
So you think it's okay for humans to starve?
Wow, now you're just gonna like poison the well on
No,
me, man.
that's what you cut me off when I was talking.
No.
Because if you don't agree with what his solution was, which was he was
But
trying
you provided two.
he was trying to use holistic farming, right? To organize the animals in different industries to rejuvenate the land because it's desert
Hey,
and you can't grow any
if it was,
food. They can't be
yeah, I am
self-sustainable
aware. But
if
the
it's
thing is that
desert.
you're providing a false dichotomy.
It's
You're
not a
saying
false
that either
dichotomy.
it is
That's
like,
literally
hold
his
on, you're
claims in
saying
the
that either
article.
you're saying okay, shut the fuck up for a second. You're saying that either we put these animals in the same situation, which I'm arguing is immoral as we always have, and people
Mm-hmm.
starve. And I'm saying there's a third option, which you highlighted, but you're neglecting,
What's the third
which
option?
is to address the corruption in the government, so that there's a management of resources that don't involve keeping these animals and these immoral practices, that does help the people in these areas. Because I don't think it's a bad thing that they live where they can't grow their own food. I just think that means that it's important for them to be able to get those exports and for them to have management that's good in the government.
That's not gonna happen. Unless if you're gonna
Okay, it
send the
shouldn't
military
happen,
in
and
from
it
whatever
shouldn't
country you
happen
live
that
in,
animals
and you're
should be
gonna force the
genocided.
African countries to do what you want, how is that going to
Okay,
help the country?
and I think that's better than genociding
So
animals.
you're okay
I think we
with
should
with
invest there.
sending military forces killing your own people in order to
No, I
enforce
meant
your vegan
mind me,
values
mind
on a
me.
different country
No,
that
mind
doesn't
me
uphold
against
vegan
me.
values.
Mind
They
me.
don't
I said
believe
mind
in
me.
veganism.
Mind me. Mind me. Shut the fuck up. I misspoke. Mind me. I think it's better to address the issues in the government by whatever means necessary. Maybe some international organization, third party has to step in, fuck some shit up. That's
So
fine.
you're
It's
going to use
better than having a
international third
genocide.
parties to force cultures, like the African culture. There are native tribes that eat nothing but meat. And you're going to force them to change their concept of morality, which sounds like racism to me, because you think your vegan morals are more superior than other people's morals and cultures. So you're going to send in the military,
No.
or you're going to send in a
What?
third party to try force people in the African country, or different African countries, because it's a continent, right? To be vegan, and you don't think that's immoral? Is okay. Well,
Did he leave?
I don't know.
No, he's still here.
He said that his phone was like 3%. So
What's wrong? What are y'all debating?
it was
Is he
veganism and the morality of it.
Oh my
His
god.
phone probably died.
Yeah.
My man just grab some seasoning and eat the fucking food.
Yeah, hard. I don't discriminate food. If it's humans, though, obviously. But other than that, I don't have a problem with it.
No, he started getting kind of like aggressive at the end there.
Fried frogs on the daily.
Uh, well, I think we can conclusively end it there. I told him I had to leave in 20 minutes anyways. I only had 2 hours.
Yeah, well.